Vivo's camera-centric flagship has gone global. It's the Vivo X200 Pro. So just how great are these cameras, and what other goodies are in store? I'm Will for GSM Marina, and let's find out in our Vivo X200 Pro review. The Vivo X200 Pro is a feature-packed flagship that's made out of China to compete with other high-end camera phones in our neck of the woods. It packs a triple camera setup which includes an advanced 200 megapixel periscope telephoto cam. It's like what we saw in last year's Vivo X100 Ultra, which was a China-only release. On top of that, the Vivo X200 Pro has the latest chipset, a large battery, and a flagship-grade display. The design is rather typical for one of these camera phones, with a huge round camera bump taking up a large portion of the backside. Our model is in titanium gray, with a matte metallic-looking finish. The back is made of glass, and there's a flat aluminum frame. The ingress protection here is a bit higher than your typical flagship, rated at IP69. That means that it can handle not only dust and water submersion, but heated jets of water too. The display of the Vivo X200 Pro is a 6.78-inch LTPO OLED with a 120Hz refresh rate, armor glass protection, and a high resolution. That resolution makes for a sharp pixel density of 452 ppi. You also get support for HDR10+ and Dolby Vision video, and 10-bit color depth as well. For brightness, with the manual slider, we maxed out at around 620 nits, but with auto brightness mode enabled, this boosted to nearly 1900 nits, plenty for comfortable use out in the sun. This display's refresh rate is extra adaptive thanks to LTPO tech. It uses 120Hz to smooth out swiping and scrolling, and this can dial down to 1Hz when idling to save energy. And Vivo claims it can go down even lower than that, to 0.1 Hz. For audio, the Vivo X200 Pro has a pair of stereo speakers. They have very good loudness, and the sound quality is decent, with a focus on mids. There could be more bass though.
I'm wide awake, but you're a nightmare.
You can wake up and unlock the phone using an ultrasonic under-display fingerprint reader. It's speedy and quite reliable. And the Vivo X200 Pro can come with 256 or 512 gigs or a whole terabyte of storage, and that's not expandable through microSD. The interface of the phone is Vivo's FunTouch OS 15, running on top of the latest Android 15. It isn't much different from previous iterations of FunTouch in look and feel. One useful feature is that you can assign shortcuts to the volume down key. Vivo hasn't forgotten about AI-powered features, such as erasing objects from your photos in the gallery. You also get Google's AI-powered Gemini Assistant on board and the Circle to Search functionality. And there is support for live translation of phone calls, transcription of conversations, and summarizations. Some of these may be region-specific though. For software support, the X200 Pro should get 4 major OS updates and 5 years of security patches from Vivo. And since the Vivo X200 Pro has an IR blaster, you can use it to control appliances with too. The Vivo X200 Pro continues in the footsteps of its predecessors, coming equipped with a high-end MediaTek chipset. In this case, it's the latest Dimensity 9400, built upon a 3nm process. In benchmarks, the X200 Pro does a great job, outperforming the previous model by a significant margin. The performance here is every bit flagship grade, with plenty of power for heavy gaming and everything else. When it comes to thermal management, the X200 Pro didn't impress in our prolonged stress test, but it's usual to see plenty of throttling on high-powered flagships. At least it was relatively gradual, without extreme dips or spikes. This year, Vivo has both increased the battery capacity from 5400 mAh to 6000, and changed the battery chemistry to use a silicon carbon anode. The battery life of the X200 Pro is great as a result, with a combined active use score of 15 hours and 9 minutes in our battery life tests, and solid individual scores across the board. The Vivo X200 Pro supports 90-watt charging, and the adapter comes in the box. With it, we were able to charge the phone from 0 to 68% in half an hour, and a full charge took 49 minutes. It's not bad, but the previous model charged much faster. There's also support for wireless charging here. Now onto the cameras. There's a 50-megapixel main cam, a 200-megapixel 3.7x telephoto with close focusing capability, and a 50-megapixel ultrawide cam which has autofocus. The main camera doesn't have a 1-inch type sensor like the previous model. Instead, there's a smaller Sony Lightia 818 sensor. It supposedly brings the same level of image quality, so let's check that out. During the day, photos from the main camera have very good detail, with a reasonably natural looking rendition. The color reproduction is pleasant, with plenty of pop, without being over the top. Exposures are on point, and the dynamic range is excellent. There's a natural separation between subject and background, and when taking shots of people, skin tones are nice and lifelike, with only the occasional extra warmth. On previous Vivo phones, we've gotten great results from 2x digital zoom, but the X200 Pros are just decent. These shots don't have the crispiness and per pixel detail we expected, and some scenes come out softer than others. In low light, the main camera's photos are great. They're vibrant and colorful, with well-developed shadows and preserved highlights. Detail is very good here, but it's a step down from the level of definition and fine textures we've seen from the Vivo X100 Ultra and X100 Pro. The telephoto cam's 3.7x zoom photos are impressive. During the day, they come out sharp and nicely detailed, and free of noise. Colors and dynamic range leave no grounds for complaint either. Naturally, the telephoto does great for people shots too. Detail is great, skin tones are nice, and there's plenty of natural background separation. Of course, you can also use the portrait mode if you want extra blur or some beautification, plus there are quite a few Zeiss-branded bokeh effects. This telephoto camera doesn't seem to be the exact same unit as the X100 Ultras. The minimum focusing distance isn't quite as short. Still, at 14 centimeters, it's short enough to take some nice close-ups. You can tap on the viewfinder to add digital zoom to get a 7.4x magnification. These shots are reasonably clean and detailed. And even 10x zoom shots are usable, with good enough definition. In the dark, the telephoto does an expert job, producing sharp and super detailed images. They have excellent dynamic range, and faithful color rendition too. Compared to the other two rear cameras, the Ultrawide isn't too exciting. While the colors and dynamic range are nice, the photos are not the sharpest. And with a 15mm lens, we've seen ultrawide cameras with a wider field of view. In low light, the Ultrawide does a solid job for this sort of camera. Exposures are bright, colors are saturated, and white balance is on point. It's just that detail isn't too impressive. Selfies come from a 32-megapixel front-facing camera, but the level of detail is less than what you'd expect from this resolution. The lack of autofocus isn't great either. The X200 Pro can record video in up to 4K at 60 FPS with all of its cameras. The main and zoom cameras can do 120 FPS slow-mo, and the main cam can shoot in 8K as well. In 4K, the main camera's footage has good sharpness, excellent dynamic range, and likable colors. The telephoto cam's videos are sharp and detailed too. The Ultrawide does a good job for this type of camera. Compared to the other cameras, the quality is alright in terms of detail and sharpness. In low light, the X200 Pro's main camera does pretty well. Dynamic range is wide, and colors are on point. Detail is good overall, except for in some darker areas. The video stabilization works very well. You can count on it to remove walking shake and smooth out pans. So that's the Vivo X200 Pro. It's a solid flagship with a powerful chipset, great display, and long battery life. And the main and telephoto cameras do a great job. When it comes to the cameras, there are some nitpicks though. The ultrawide cam is decent, but not too exciting. And if you're into selfies, there are better options out there. But if those things don't bother you, then the Vivo X200 Pro is worth checking out. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're looking for an alternative camera phone, one option could be the Honor Magic 6 Pro. Or you can check out our review of the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Let us know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.